Today, we're being joined by Jodie Morgan, CEO of GreenMantra Technologies. And this is part of our series speaking with CEOs of small to mid-sized businesses, especially those that have sustainability in their DNA, and talking about their growth strategies and tips for working with large corporates. Jodie, why don't you kick us off and tell us a little bit about GreenMantra Technologies and your technology?
Sure. Obviously a topic that I'm always happy to talk about. So GreenMantra is a rapidly growing technology company. We take waste plastic and we convert it into specialty polymers. And those products are used as additives. Typically when I talk to people, they don't understand much of that, but plastic is this really interesting molecule and you can make a lot of additional products from them. So we use it as a feedstock. We make a couple of cuts, we cut it down. And when we make additives, the best way that I can describe that for people that aren't familiar with it is you add it at a small percentage and it creates a dramatic effect. So if you think about yeast, so if you have dough and you add yeast, you get bread versus a cracker. So you can't get the bread without adding the yeast. Dramatic effect, even though it's a small percentage. And that's how people use our product.
Well, that's really interesting. And so you talk about it as an additive. So what kinds of markets do you serve?
Well, today we go into roofing and roads and plastic processing. Each of those markets has sub-applications in them. But what we look for in any of the markets that we're going into is pretty simple, basic marketing 101. So, does the customer have that problem, which we always validate with third-party testing, and then are they ready to start to work on that? I mean, as you know, any company you go to, they have lots of different things that they could be spending their resources on. We have to make sure that there's a good match between the problems that we want to solve and can solve, and are they ready to work on them? So an example in plastic processing is, a few years ago, people weren't talking about incorporating so much post-use plastic into their formulations, but today they are. So that's a problem for them because when you try to use post-use plastic, a second time doesn't always work real easily. And it was perfect for its first life, but we added a whole bunch of things to it to make it perfect for that first life. And now we try to reuse that in a new application, and it's hard. And our product helps them to overcome that problem, which allows these companies not only to meet their sustainability goals, which they're being asked to do, but in addition to that, because they can use the post-use plastic, they can lower their overall cost. So they have a problem, we can help to solve it, and they're ready to address that issue.
I mean, given the consumer awareness on sustainability and climate change, plastic waste problem you mentioned, what are the ways that you see GreenMantra contributing to these very large challenges? And, to what extent does this consumer awareness impact your growth strategy?
We're fortunate in that many of the markets that we're addressing today, there's a market pull. So whether that's in roofing or roads where the asphalt is changing and they need new solutions to those problems, or whether it's in plastic, as we mentioned. But if I think about the topics that you mentioned, whether it's plastic or sustainability or climate, we really impact all of them. So we use plastic waste, obviously that's helpful, but we also target plastic waste that other people can't use. So as an example, we can use ocean waste. Ocean waste, plastic is often hard to use because it's been out in the environment and it will oxidize. And that causes havoc on things like strength. So if you would go to make a park bench the next time, it doesn't have the strength. So you've actually degraded that plastic. But we don't care. We're okay to use that. We can use film, which is tough to go through mechanical recycling, or small forms that, again, don't go through mechanical recycling. So on the plastic, I think we can add a number of values in that supply chain that didn't exist in the past. In addition, if I think about sustainability, we recently concluded an LCA, and we were able to demonstrate that we can reduce the amount of carbon for similarly produced products by about 73%, which is huge. And then the last is we also help our customers. So when our customers use our product, it's not just that they're taking plastic out of the stream. We also help them to incorporate more post-use plastic, or we can help them to reduce their energy needs so they can produce the same amount of product but use less energy. So we really have, in my opinion, the ability to impact this in a positive way, both from the supply of our feedstock, our process itself, as well as what we're able to do for our customers.
Well, that's a pretty extensive range of impact that GreenMantra has on this question. And if you look at everything that's going on in mechanical recycling and the interest there, would you say that your technologies is a complement to things that can't be mechanically recycled?
Definitely. I mean, look, it's a huge problem, and it's really important that lots of people are spending their time trying to help solve the plastic problem. Mechanical recycling is fantastic. It has a really important space in the market. And advanced recycling, chemical recycling does as well. You know, the ability to use things that are challenging for a mechanical recycler to process, or if they did process it, like I use the ocean waste example, even if they did process that, it doesn't have value on the other end. So they put in time to collect it and sort it and maybe clean it and change its form. And it doesn't have value on the other end to most people, but it does to GreenMantra. So I think that, you know, advanced recycling and mechanical recycling are hugely complementary as we're trying to build this recycling infrastructure.
I mean, the recycling infrastructure is a very well talked about, issue that people are working, I think, for the most part together to think about strategies, to address this. And in some ways, that means incorporating existing value chains. And so, can you talk a little bit about the uniqueness of GreenMantra, and to what extent does it fit with the existing value chains in the market today?
So it fits, so GreenMantra fits in this continuum of advanced recycling. There were a whole bunch of different companies that look at waste plastic as this really interesting molecule that we can make into new products. With GreenMantra, there's a number of things that make us a little bit different. We do have very high yields, much higher than any other advanced recycling. Our inputs are really low. The only water that we use is for cooling. We have no wastewater that comes from our facility. So yields are high, inputs are low, and then the value that we create for our customers is also really high. So the result of all of that is not only do we produce products that matter, but we have a business model that works. And that's a bit challenging in this space today. Right? We pay for our feedstock, we pay market rates for our feedstock because we create enough value on the other end that we can. And that means that we can support the infrastructure. So we've had suppliers come to us and ask us to support them in offtake agreements, because then they can go out and they can get loans for additional capital so they can expand their facilities. And we can do that again because we can buy the product from them and create value through our finished goods. And I think that makes us unique. When I started with GreenMantra, I get a chance to work with a lot of young people, and these guys are super enthusiastic and just phenomenal with great ideas. But the other thing that's important is they want to change the world, and we don't want just a little bit of somebody's time or money or effort or mind spend. The way that we do that is we show them a really good business model that can also change the world, and that combination is what gets more and more people excited. If we can prove it with GreenMantra, more and more people will do it with other businesses as well. And we can have a ripple effect, and that's important.
Yeah, I mean, having that proven business model, I mean, when you hear companies talk about that, it's sort of, those companies that were once a startup, but now have the proven business model, now all of a sudden that leads a framework for scale, for growth. And I imagine that's, something that you think and work on, every day.
We do. We've been commercial for 4 years. And, if I look at the past couple of years, we're growing at double digits every year, and we'll do that again this year. And that's a combination of, expanding our product portfolio and expanding the markets that we're going to, globalizing the business, going into the international markets. And, so for me, being able to prove that the business model works is all about that growth, that commercialization, running 24/7, building more plants across the globe, and frankly being, EBITDA positive, which we are. So that was a good check in the box, not a small one, by the way.
Absolutely. And, as we talk to CEOs of small and mid-sized businesses, but honestly, even in large businesses, managing one's time against all the opportunities that are in front of us is often a real challenge. And especially when you're establishing relationships with new partners and customers that really deserve that time and you want to give it to them. But how do you address this issue about managing your time and knowing where to invest that in relationships? Is there a particular formula that you have, or is there a standard approach that you and your teams like to use?
I would love to say there's a formula. I'm an engineer, so that would be a really good thing to be able to say, but I can't. I think it is everything you said, right? It's a matter of prioritizing. And what we found early on, and this was different for me, is that people are really interested in what we're doing. So we get a lot of inbound asks that are, it's a novelty. They're curious. They want to understand more. And although in the beginning it was really flattering to be able to have all these conversations, you quickly also realized that there had to be an outcome that was going to help to move the business forward and try to figure out which ones would and wouldn't. It also came into play. You asked about what markets we're in, and we know that our product has applicability in a wide range of markets, and we picked a few where we believe that there's that market pull as well as a good value proposition. So we can match up those combinations. So I'm going to think more about, is there a formula that I can put to this? But I really think it's a matter of making sure that everything that we're doing is leading us to our goal. So we have certain goals that we're trying to hit on a revenue side, on a profitability side, and obviously impacting the world in a positive way. And everybody is supposed to be asking each day, right after, is it safe? Since we are in manufacturing, that's pretty important, but is it safe? The second is, and is it taking me towards those goals? And if not, doesn't mean you can't have fun conversations with people because they're interested, but just make sure that you're also getting the rest of the things done as well.
Well, I'm sure the teams that work for you are lucky people, and you're giving them a lot of, insightful guidance. But what do you personally enjoy about interacting with large corporates, and what do you hope to accomplish?
So let me start with a sub question to your question. I do get to work with great people. And I think part of it is the industry. It attracts people that are smart and enthusiastic and really want to do something good. And we've just got the people that I get to work with in GreenMantra are phenomenal. It was one of the things that and the technology just sold me on this business early on, and I completely fell in love with both. But when I look at big corporations, I think that they have so much potential to help with this changing the world, right? Like a little bit from them goes an awful long way. So it's important to me to not just be interacting with them, but showing them real value. I mean, we think if we've got a lot of priorities going on, they've got even more. And so we have to be able to make sure that what we're going to them with and targeting is something that they care about. So the value propositions have to be strong, but for every single one of them that we get engaged, and we've been fortunate because of the markets we're going into that we've gotten really good engagement. For every single one of those where we're successful, we'll move the needle that much more, right? Just the volume that they can put through their systems. And if we can impact that volume in a positive way, it's really phenomenal. So not only can we do something good for their companies, make them more profitable, make them more sustainable, we can obviously help GreenMantra to grow. And together, we do something good.
Well, Jodie, thank you so much for sharing your insights on GreenMantra, on the market, and interacting, as a leader of a small and mid-sized business with large corporates. I think there are a lot of CEOs out there that are looking to master some of the things that you're doing, and I think some of these tips will be very, very helpful to them. So thank you so much for talking with us today.
No, thank you so much for your time and for taking the time to learn more about GreenMantra.